Miss Vera.
I'm gonna remember you.
Mel's diner felt like a place viewers could enter after a long day. The coffee kept pouring. Mel guarded his chili. Flo always had an answer. For many families, it became part of the weekly rhythm. And behind the counter, Alice Hyatt was trying to support her son without abandoning the singing dream that had brought her west. But this warm, working-class comedy began somewhere few viewers would expect. Its most famous catchphrase replaced a joke that failed. A character from another hit CBS series once tried to take over the diner, and one supporting player became so popular that Alice eventually had to let her go. Here are 12 weird facts you may not have known about Alice. Number 12. Alice began as an Oscar-winning Martin Scorsese movie that was nothing like a traditional sitcom. A warm CBS comedy about coffee, chili, and workplace arguments began with an adult Martin Scorsese film about grief, money, and survival. Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore arrived in 1974. Ellen Burstyn played Alice Hyatt, a recently widowed mother traveling with her young son, Tommy. Alice wanted to return to singing, but dreams did not pay motel bills or keep the car running. When her money became scarce, she took work at a roadside diner. The movie had humor, but it was not the comfortable ensemble comedy television viewers would later know. Its Alice was grieving. She was financially vulnerable. Her relationship with Tommy could be affectionate one moment and painfully strained the next. Work was not a charming detour. It was what stood between them and complete uncertainty. The film earned 3 Academy Award nominations. Burstyn won Best Actress. Diane Ladd was nominated for playing Flo, and Robert Getchell was nominated for his original screenplay. This was prestigious source material, not an obvious blueprint for a weekly laugh-track comedy. When CBS adapted the story, the central pieces remained. Alice was still a widow. Tommy was still beside her. She still wanted to sing. And diner work was still supposed to be temporary. But the television version softened the edges and stopped the journey in Phoenix. Mel's diner became a permanent setting. Flo and Vera became weekly companions. Problems that might have left bruises in the movie could now be resolved before closing time. The contradiction was built into the series from the beginning. One of television's warmest workplace comedies had grown from a movie about a woman who was never sure where she and her child would sleep next. Number 11. Kiss My Grits replaced a joke that got no laughs. Flo Castleberry's most famous line sounded as though it had been passed down through generations of sharp-tongued Southern women. It had not. Polly Holiday later explained that the first version was, "Kiss my honeydew." The line was tried, and the audience did not respond. The writers changed one word. Holiday supplied that unmistakable delivery, and television history suddenly had, "Kiss my grits." The phrase worked because Holiday made it sound less like a prepared joke and more like a warning. Flo could use it on Mel when he became too cheap. She could use it on a customer who underestimated her. Sometimes it was playful. Sometimes it meant the conversation was over. The words were simple, but the pause, the stare, and the force behind them belonged entirely to the performance. The expression became a national catchphrase and followed Holiday long after she left the diner. Viewers repeated it because it was short, recognizable, and satisfying in a way the original wording had never been. Yet the Alabama-born actress was careful to say that it was not some authentic saying from her childhood. She called it pure Hollywood. She also resisted being reduced to a human catchphrase machine. Interviewers kept returning to the words, but Holiday made clear that a catchphrase created for Flo was not the whole measure of her work. And that remains the perfect irony. What sounded like old Southern wisdom was created in a television studio after a joke about a melon died in silence. Number 10. A real Phoenix diner changed its name for the show. The interior of Mel's Diner was a studio set in California. The exterior that helped viewers believe the diner stood beside a Phoenix highway was real. During location scouting, a producer noticed a roadside restaurant called Chris's Diner. Its most useful feature was impossible to miss: an enormous coffee cup mounted above the sign. The cup instantly communicated the world of the series. This was not a fashionable restaurant. It was a place for truck drivers, regular customers, bottomless coffee, and the meal that might be served with an argument. The owner agreed to change the name on the sign from Chris's to Mel's for filming. That small alteration turned an ordinary restaurant into one of the most familiar television exteriors of the era. A few seconds of establishing footage did the work of an entire location. The real building and the fictional diner were never exact matches. Inside, Alice worked on a Warner Brothers soundstage. The show occasionally gave Mel's different street numbers, and pieces of the kitchen changed as the series continued. Most viewers did not care. They remembered the counter, the booths, the kitchen window, and that giant cup promising coffee above the Arizona pavement. Mel's Diner may have been fictional, but for anyone trying to find it from the addresses mentioned on the show, the real mystery was which Phoenix street number to trust. Number 9. Boss Hogg crossed over from Hazzard County and turned out to be related to Jolene. By the 8th season, Mel's Diner had survived bad cooking, broken equipment, financial trouble, and nearly every scheme Mel could invent. Then Boss Hogg arrived from Hazzard County. In the season premiere, Mel is hog-tied, Sorrel Book appeared as the same white-suited Boss Hogg viewers knew from the Dukes of Hazzard. Sonny Schroyer joined him as Deputy Enos Strait. The episode revealed that Boss was a distant relative of Jolene through her Granny Gums. That family connection gave him a reason to visit Phoenix. Because both shows used the same established characters, the appearance functioned as a genuine little crossover rather than a celebrity cameo. His real interest soon shifted to Mel's property. Boss proposed turning the diner into a western branch of the Boar's Nest. Mel liked the money being offered and signed the papers without studying the fine print. A week later, the restaurant had become Boar's Nest West. Mel was wearing a white suit, customers were ordering Hazzard-style food, and Boss revealed the trap. The contract allowed him to buy the diner for $1. He planned to clear the block for a shopping development. Alice answered fraud with a little Hazzard County logic of her own. The gang threatened Boss's Cadillac with a contractor's cement mixer until he surrendered the deal. Enos accidentally started the mixer anyway. Boss left Phoenix without the diner, while his spotless white image ended in wet cement. Number 8. Vera seemed unable to organize her thoughts, but Beth Howland had mastered one of Broadway's fastest songs. Vera Louise Gorman often seemed as though her thoughts were arriving faster than she could arrange them. She hesitated. She doubled back. Her voice climbed when she became nervous. A simple explanation could leave Mel staring at her as though he had missed the beginning, the middle, and possibly the subject. Beth Howland's performance made that confusion look effortless. But before Alice, Howland had demonstrated the exact opposite kind of verbal control on Broadway. In 1970, she originated the role of Amy in Stephen Sondheim and George Furth's Company, which went on to win the Tony Award for Best Musical. Her major number was Getting Married Today, one of musical theater's most famous rapid-fire patter songs. Amy is standing on the edge of her wedding and panicking at extraordinary speed. The performer has to deliver tightly constructed lyrics with precision, musical timing, clear diction, comic escalation, and enough character detail that the scene never becomes only a technical exercise. Howland handled that material in the original Broadway production. That fact changes the way Vera can be understood. The pauses and scattered rhythm were not signs of a performer struggling to control a scene. They were choices made by an actress who had already proved she could handle language at almost impossible speed. Vera sounded as though every sentence might wander away from her. Beth Howland knew exactly where every word was going. Number 7. The original movie's Tommy returned for the pilot, then disappeared. The first television episode contained a direct human link to the Scorsese film. Alfred Lutter, who had played Tommy opposite Ellen Burstyn in Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, returned for the sitcom pilot. Linda Lavin was now Alice, but the boy beside her was still the movie's Tommy. Once the series was ordered, that connection vanished. Philip McKeon replaced Lutter for the regular run. Accounts of McKeon's casting describe a process that moved with remarkable speed. He and other finalists were brought to California for auditions. McKeon reportedly learned on a Saturday evening that he had won the role and was expected at work on Monday morning. There was little time to prepare for the change that would define his childhood, or even to return home before reporting to the set. McKeon was about 12 when the series began. Over the next 9 seasons, viewers watched him grow taller, his voice deepen, and his relationship with Alice change. Tommy began as the child whose needs forced Alice to remain practical. As he grew older, he challenged her decisions, developed plans of his own, went to college, and slowly became less dependent on the mother who had rebuilt her life around protecting him. The recasting created an unusual split. Alfred Lutter directly connected the pilot to the movie, but disappeared immediately afterward. Philip McKeon became the Tommy audiences remembered because they did not simply meet him, they watched him grow up. Number 6. Groucho Marx's son became part of the Alice writing team. One of the names behind many trips to Mel's Diner carried a famous comedy inheritance. Arthur Marx was the son of Groucho Marx. Working with his longtime partner Robert Fisher, Arthur became a recurring member of the Alice writing team. Their names appeared together on dozens of episodes from the late 1970s into the early 1980s. They were not writing Marx Brothers' chaos into Mel's Diner. Alice depended on a quieter kind of comic machinery. A missing paycheck could expose Mel's suspicion. A bad date could reveal Alice's guarded optimism. A small misunderstanding could send Vera into panic and give Flo the opening for one perfect line. The plot often remained simple because the personalities created the complication. That was especially useful in a series where the same counter, booths, and kitchen had to generate fresh conflict every week. Arthur had spent a lifetime close to one of America's most famous comic performers. On Alice, however, his work happened behind the scenes, without a grease paint mustache, a cigar, or his father's name appearing above the title. Millions of viewers knew exactly how Groucho Marx delivered a joke. Far fewer realized that Groucho's son was helping decide what Mel, Alice, Flo, and Vera would say after the coffee was poured. Number 5. Vic Tayback carried Mel from the movie into television, but almost everything around him changed. Vic Tayback was the only principal actor to carry the same role from Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore into the long-running series. Yet his Mel Sharples did not enter television unchanged. In the movie, Alice works at Mel and Ruby's cafe in Tucson. The name carries part of Mel's history. Ruby was his late wife, making the film's Mel a widower, running a place still marked by her absence. The sitcom moved the restaurant to Phoenix, shortened the name to Mel's Diner, and made Mel a bachelor. The television character also became broader and more comic. Even the pilot briefly retained the old Mel and Ruby's wording before the series settled into its new identity. He was loud, possessive, stingy, easily insulted, and convinced that his chili deserved respect the rest of the world refused to give it. Tayback kept Mel from becoming only a shouting machine. Beneath the insults was a man who had built his identity around one small business. A broken appliance felt personal, an empty booth looked like disaster. When one of the waitresses was truly in trouble, concern usually emerged after Mel had complained loudly enough to pretend he did not care. The film and the series gave him different histories, locations, and emotional rhythms, but Tabak supplied continuity. He made the movie's diner owner and television's comic tyrant feel like two versions of the same stubborn man. Number 4. Linda Lavin sang the theme herself, and the song changed during the series. There's a New Girl in Town did more than introduce Alice. It allowed Alice to introduce herself. Linda Lavin performed the theme with music by David Shire and lyrics by Alan and Marilyn Bergman. Lavin already had deep musical theater experience, so the singing dream attached to her character never felt like an invention pasted onto a sitcom star. Her voice carried the opening message. Alice had been sad. She had been shy. She had spent too much time trapped inside a life that was no longer working. Now she was moving forward, even if forward meant tying on a waitress uniform and taking another shift. The production used several arrangements during the series, and the lyrics were altered after the second season. That meant longtime viewers did not hear one frozen recording for 9 years. The opening itself kept being refreshed. Some versions were slower and more reflective. Later openings moved with greater confidence and energy. There is no need to claim that every musical change was designed as a map of Alice's personal growth, but heard beside the later seasons, the revised version feels more assured, as though Alice no longer needs to convince herself that she can survive. That is what made the theme unusually intimate. Before Mel complained, before Flo answered back, and before Vera lost her train of thought, Linda Lavin reminded viewers that the comedy belonged to a woman still trying to become the person she once imagined. Number 3. Flo became so popular that Alice lost her. Flo began as one of the waitresses surrounding Alice. Within a few seasons, she had become one of the most recognizable characters on television. Polly Holliday's performance earned repeated Emmy nominations and 2 Golden Globe wins for Alice. Flo's red hair, gum-chewing, confidence, and devastating timing could redirect an entire scene the moment she turned toward Mel. The show was called Alice, but the supporting character had become large enough to lead a series of her own. In February 1980, Flo left Mel's Diner for a restaurant job in Texas. Her journey continued in the spin-off Flo, where she stopped in her hometown, bought a struggling roadhouse, and renamed it Flo's Yellow Rose. The new series arrived with enormous interest. Its short first season ranked among the highest-rated programs of that television year, showing that the network had not imagined Flo's drawing power. The advantage did not last. Viewership fell during the second season, and CBS canceled Flo after 29 episodes. By then, the change at Mel's was permanent. Holliday did not return to Alice for a newly filmed guest appearance. When Flo appeared in Memories during the series finale, the footage came from earlier episodes. The spin-off proved how much audiences loved her. It also removed a piece of the chemistry that had made Alice successful. Flo had been more than a dispenser of catchphrases. She balanced Alice's caution, challenged Mel's authority, and protected Vera without becoming sentimental about it. Mel's Diner remained open, but the original group behind the counter would never stand together in quite the same way again. And the show now needed someone brave enough to enter the space Flo had left behind. Number 2. The original movie's Flo returned, but she was now replacing Flo under another name. The solution to Flo's departure produced one of the strangest casting circles in sitcom history. Diane Ladd had originated Flo in Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. Her performance earned an Academy Award nomination and helped define the tough, funny diner waitress before the television series existed. When Polly Holliday left Alice, Ladd entered the sitcom, but she did not return as Flo. By then, television audiences identified Polly Holliday completely with that character. Ladd arrived as Isabel Belle Dupree, a former Mel's waitress with a sharp tongue, an old romantic history with Mel, and musical ambitions of her own. The result was a fascinating overlap. The actress who had first played Flo in the movie was now joining the television adaptation to help fill the absence created by television's Flo while playing someone else. Ladd did not imitate Holiday. Across 23 episodes, Belle was harder, more openly ambitious, and less interested in becoming anyone's comforting replacement. Her history with Mel gave their arguments a different edge. She seemed to know exactly which parts of his anger were performance. The role brought Ladd a Golden Globe win, but Belle did not remain through the rest of the series. Her final appearance came through a telephone call informing the diner that she had taken work as a backup singer in Nashville. That exit created another quiet irony. Belle arrived after Flo, and then found a way to leave Mel's through music. Alice, whose singing dream had started the entire story, was still behind the counter waiting for her turn. Number 1. Alice's temporary stop in Phoenix lasted 9 years, and the finale finally let her leave. Phoenix was never supposed to be the destination. Alice Hyatt had lost her husband, packed her life into a car, and headed west with Tommy because she wanted to sing again. Mel's Diner was a practical answer to an immediate problem. She needed money, her son needed stability. The uniform was meant to last only until they could continue the journey. Then, ordinary life took over. A shift became a schedule became years. Tommy grew from a boy into a college student. Flo left for Texas. Belle left for music. Vera married. Jolene built a place for herself behind the counter. Mel kept guarding the diner as though every chipped plate threatened the foundation of his life. Alice sang when an opportunity appeared. She met performers. She occasionally came close to another future, but she always returned to the coffee pot. Life does not always destroy a dream in one dramatic moment. Sometimes, it simply keeps a person busy. There is rent to pay. A child needs help. A coworker misses a shift. The car needs repairs. Another week passes, and the dream remains safely postponed. In the final episode, postponement finally ended. Alice received a recording contract and prepared to move to Nashville. Mel revealed that he had sold the diner to a real estate developer. The place that had survived 9 seasons of disasters, schemes, arguments, and reconciliations was closing. While clearing her locker, Alice found the old "Waitress Wanted" sign that had first brought her into Mel's. That small piece of cardboard held the whole journey. It marked the moment she had accepted a temporary job because she had no better choice. Now she was holding it as a woman with a grown son, years of friendships behind her, and a second chance at the ambition she had carried into Phoenix. Customers and friends came through to say goodbye. Mel gave his waitresses farewell bonuses, one last awkward act of generosity from the boss who had spent years pretending every dollar caused him pain. Alice, Vera, Jolene, Tommy, and the others left the room one by one. Mel remained behind. He turned the sign to closed, locked the door, and walked away from the diner that had defined him. The ending did not pretend those 9 years had been wasted. Mel's had given Alice income when she was frightened, a community when she was alone, and enough time to raise Tommy without completely surrendering herself. But the show also refused to say that survival was all she deserved. Her dream had been delayed, not erased. That is why the finale still carries weight. Alice did not leave because Mel's meant nothing. She could leave because the people inside it had helped her become strong enough to continue. What do you remember most about Alice? Was it Flo's famous answer? Vera's nervous confusion? Mel defending his chili? Or Linda Lavin singing over the opening credits? Share your memory in the comments. And wherever Alice Hyatt's road continued after that final shift, it is comforting to imagine that somewhere in Nashville, the new girl in town finally got her song.